Hello YouTube, this is video number 2 for me, so please watch this one too. Thank you. The Samsung NX1 is coming out in a week according to Amazon. The release date is November 18th, a week from today. B&H is still claiming that it's going to be released on mid-November, so no actual date. I did order my camera from B&H, so we're just going to have to wait and see. Meanwhile, I was going to go over some of the specs and also what my expectations and predictions are with this camera. So starting with the sensor, it's an APS-C sensor, pretty typical of mirrorless cameras. I won't even go into that. They are claiming it to be a 28 megapixel, a BSI, a backside illuminated sensor. I think they could have came up with a different name for that, but basically what that means is all the veins and arteries and everything that goes into producing an image is on the back of the sensor instead of in the front, so it gets more direct light. It's really complicated. I had to Google it, I had to really focus on the screen just to figure out what all it means. I have a whole new respect for camera sensors ever since I studied this BSI thing. But it's supposed to be a better sensor. It's supposed to be the biggest of its kind ever produced, and can't wait to see the results. So that's definitely a big thing they're claiming, that this is going to be a new, exciting, and a well-producing 28 megapixel small sensor. Let's go down. File format, yada yada. Image stabilizer, optical. Video recording. I won't even go into video recording. Not a video guy, just look at this video. Autofocus. This is an area where Samsung has really pushed its technology with the NX1. So 205 phase detection and 209 contrast detection. That's huge. Unheard of. Covering 90% of this sensor. This is one of the areas where this camera needs to deliver 95% at least. They keep pushing this phase detection, this auto tracking, this amazing focus that you're not going to get with anything else, the quickest, most accurate. There's a lot of hype on this focus, and I think a lot of people are really interested in how this camera focuses and how it's going to behave and what the results are going to be. They're talking about the viewfinder being almost like an optical viewfinder, so almost no lag. I'm really anxious to see that. I've yet to see a viewfinder that really behaved like that. ISO. Here's another place where they're kind of pushing the NX1 to be better than the rest. Because of its sensor, because everything's on the back, it's supposed to gather light better. I could be wrong on this. There's a lot of you technical people out there that know this better than me. But basically, one of the reasons I switched was I wanted a camera that behaved better in high ISO. So here's my thing. I think this camera is going to do well at 3200 ISO. If you make a sensor that can't behave well at 3200 ISO, just don't bother making it these days. I'm really hoping we get good images at 6400. Really hoping. That would really make my day if these images are really, really nice at 6400 ISO. If we get good results, 10,000, 12,000, I am totally happy. If it's an unusable image at 25,000, I'm okay with that. You know, according to this, the native ISO is from 100 to 25,600. If 25,600 is Swiss cheese, I would be okay with that. If I'm getting good images at 10,000, 12,000, I'm okay with that. If I'm getting really good at 64, I'm happy. Metering, shutter, same as every other camera. Burst rate and continuous shooting. Here's another spot where they're really pushing. 15 frames per second at full resolution 28 megapixel, and people are saying that you can do focus tracking, continuous focus, while you're shooting 15 frames per second. Here's a spot where they're really pushing. There's a lot of talk about this, but if Samsung doesn't deliver 100%, I think I'd be okay with that. I think most of us are going to be okay with 10 frames a second. At 15 frames, you're really talking about pro sports photographers, and none of them are going to ditch their Canons or Nikons. I don't know if there's too many Nikon shooters, but they're not going to ditch their Canons and $100,000 worth of glass and switch to Samsung because we're getting 15 frames per second. Not now. Maybe a year from now, maybe 2 years from now. So I think if we get 10 frames, I would be okay. Samsung may not look good, but I'd be okay with 10 solid frames per second with focusing well. And the other thing is battery. If this battery, which is a BP 1900, I guess the 1900 is how much fuel it holds. That's a 1300 in that camera. And if it behaves anything like that, I'm going to have to get 2 more batteries in addition to the 2 that I'm getting, maybe even 4 more. So I'm really hoping we get good results out of this battery, or I'm really hoping a third party comes out with a cheaper battery than 60 bucks. But basically, that's my rundown of this camera. I think the focusing is going to be good. I think it's going to deliver in that aspect. I think the holdup is really making sure everything is done right. The frames per second, I don't think it's going to do 15 at full resolution. I think it's going to do a little bit less, but totally acceptable. The ISO, I'm really hoping we get good results at 6400 and usable images at 10,000, 12,000. I really, really hope so. That's going to be the maker for me. If I'm not getting good images at 6400, I'm returning the camera. The focus thing, I don't mind. I actually enjoy being in manual focus. But that's another thing too. If Samsung cannot deliver on the capability of this camera to focus, like they're saying, they're going to have a lot of returns. But other than that, we shall wait and see how this camera performs. I have no regrets selling my Canon stuff. It had to go. It's a 5D Mark II. Had some older L lenses. So it was really time to kind of upgrade that. But I'm really anxious to see how well this Samsung behaves. And if it's going to be worth the money. I think it's going to be a good camera. I just don't know if it's going to be worth the $27.99 that they're going to be selling it for with the S lens, the 16 to 50 S lens. But time will tell. I'll be doing another video soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.